Hi everyone, welcome to Midterm Review, where we interview the Gs and DGs of various boards. So, myself Aditya and myself Abhi. And today we are accompanied by Talin and Tatsam, who are the DGs and Gs of the board for sports activities. So, to start with the interview, I would like to know your motivation of becoming the G and observation of becoming BSA.
You want both of us to answer that?
Like anybody can.
For me, the motivation was very simple. I enjoyed being a part of the board. That is, once I went to the few interactions that I did, I understood that more than anything, of course, the unity here is very good. The purpose that everyone has collectively is actually present, which is not the collective purpose I did not see in a lot of other boards. And that inspired me, and the purpose was very pure. We all just want to play and win and want to take away good things from the sport that we play. So that made me passionate about the board and us doing better in the inter-IITs and improving the sports culture of the institute in general, which inspired me to work. And what was the second part of the question?
What's your vision? What's your vision?
Vision, right?
My was pretty similar as well. Just adding on to that, for me personally, like sports was just an outlet. If I'm being happy or I'm being sad. So, and the second thing is probably after 1 or 2 years when we get into corporate or any further studies, probably will not be able to play at such a huge level at the national level. So that's why I decided to like pursue sports at this level and then maybe probably contributing to my board in any way which possible. Then I think that was a good opportunity for that.
So the first part of question we will be asking regarding the operations of BSA. So it was a very big agreement during the start of the tenure only that BSA budget is very low this year compared to the previous years. So how are you dealing with this? How are you managing the sports specific requirements?
So basically, this was not just BSA specific. Across all boards and societies, only the budget was a little low in the starting as compared to what we are given every year. But then again, I feel that the sports administration was quite helpful in this regard. They did not cut off like us completely, the students, and they were actually trying to help us out in whatever way possible. So in the starting, we definitely had to cut down a lot of even kind of basic necessities. But we were clear that we need to perform very well and put a good amount of money during our inter-IT practice and during our inter-IT travel. So that in that way, somehow we kind of reallocated the budget in the very starting to maybe cut down some costs in terms of juices or some miscellaneous things, which I don't think is very important to point out. But over time, I think the situation got better a lot. In fact, last week only we got a little more amount, which is still not what we demanded, but I think it will cover most of our costs, and I think we can function pretty good now. And secondly, we are also looking out for sponsors and trying to bring in money from other heads, not just the government grants. And we are quite good in that. We are having a couple of good leads, and I think we can pull in a lot of money from that source.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. You have written a SOP that you would optimize the budget for, like you will prioritize sport specific requirements and contrary to the general structure, which does not have room for modifications and required modifications. So, what my question is, what's the general structure that was previously followed, and while prioritizing this, what other compromises are you making on other areas?
Yeah, so I think this particular part of my SOP is twofold. Firstly, it's regarding the specific budget that is there for inter-IT, that is for tracksuits and for jerseys and things like that. And secondly, it's the requirements which differ sport to sport. So I'll just take an example. So for most sports, we have equipments, right? I need a bat for cricket, balls, some might need hockey sticks, etc., etc. So, but other than that, there are sports like chess who do not require any budget whatsoever, or weightlifting who probably require like one-time fundings. I just want a weightlifting set which will last for 3 to 4 years, etc. What happens is that initially these budgets are sort of not seen as mainstream because they're like, things like that, which is why these are ignored. Secondly, regarding the inter-IT kit as well, everyone has different requirements. For example, I in cricket would rather prefer a sweater when the inter-IT was in Kanpur because we play morning matches and it's tough for cricket players to not stay cold in the morning. But some sports don't because let's say athletics events are maybe in the afternoon or maybe they just warm themselves up enough at that they can also play without sweaters, which is not true in cricket. So every sport has different requirements. What we were basing this out of is firstly for sports like chess and weightlifting, which are unconventional, which do not require maybe the same type of kits that most sports do. They don't need 2 jerseys and a trouser. Weightlifting needs one exact set. Chess does not need a jersey at all. Chess only needs a tracksuit. Chess does not need shoes, while other sports do. And some need expensive shoes, for example, basketball does. So the difference that we were trying to create is just to be proactive about this before the budget allocation is made. When we get the approval of the budget, we just put an amount. For example, if I'm giving 4,000 per person for a contingent of 180, I approve out only 4,000 into 180. What I can then do is, before getting this budget approved, I can simply cut that down. I can put 4,000 into, let's say, 160, and the 20 other players, I can give them whatever they want. For example, chess wanted a software. This point came out of my campaigning with the chess team. They just wanted a software instead of the shoes or jersey that they're getting. And we thought, sure, we can cut down the budget from the shoes, etc., which you don't need, and we can give you the software that you want. So I think I over-explained that, but essentially there are some requirements that some sports have and some don't. We just have to get into it before the budget is approved and try to get that sorted out within the same amount that we have.
So another point in your SOP is that you have written that you would keep a proper anonymous feedback system for reviewing monitoring of sports and people, and there will be periodic meetings of captains, vice captains, and general and deputy general secretaries. So how do you plan on to do this? Like,
So
is there a software or something?
Yeah, so we are maintaining some anonymous forms and we are meeting quite more than last year. Last year he was a vice captain, so I think he would elaborate. Yeah, so as compared to the previous years, I think we are meeting a lot more. On an average, I think every month we meet once or twice with all the captains and vice captains. And one small thing that I have noticed myself, that during the very start, the meetings were quite dull. Like, it was kind of just bureaucratic. The GSec and the DG are sitting here, the captains are just telling, okay, this is happening and this is happening, this is the problem. But over time, what the aim was for holding such meetings was to inculcate the spirit of one whole contingent as a whole. So over time, I have noticed from the last 2 or 3 meetings that the captains are actually interested in other sports as well. They are paying attention what is going throughout the contingent, and if we want to win the overall GC, that is very, very important. So I think in that regard, we are doing pretty good.
Also, one follow-up question. You said that you have floated anonymous feedback forms. So is necessary action taken after, like?
So I don't think any such response has come that needs a lot of major action. The small things which the players come up with, and we discussed that with the captains and coaches. Nothing very major, touchwood, nothing very major has happened as well. But yeah, I think the feedback form, we floated it I think 2 or 3 times as a game, and it has been fruitful. I think the small problems that needed to be dealt like that have been dealt. भगवान ने अगर कुछ मेजर हो तब देखेंगे क्या करना है उसका. अभी तो सही चल रहा है.
ठीक है. So moving on to the next question. Like this year, there's a rise in the recruitment of executives and coordinators in BSA, is what I've heard. So like there's been a rise in numbers of executives and coordinators that were included in the BSA. So I would like to know what exactly is the role of a coordinator and executive, and do they feel like a part of the BSA team as they may not be able to do it?
So I think a very simple structure about BSA is that firstly you have the sports secretaries whose primary purpose is to win the GC, and the sports secretary team is there to conduct the GC and inter-hostel sports events. The captains and vice captains are there for the institute teams and the inter-IT and other tournaments that are there. There are other things to a board as well. For example, any administrative things, or maybe our social media page, or just supporting the captains and the sports secretaries in general. For example, if I'm hosting a sport in the GC whose captain is not that active, I need someone to go ahead and conduct that tournament. So the coordinators, the team of the coordinators generally has this type of a role where they support the other 2 functions of BSA. And thirdly, also things like we wanting to include more and more people on host events which are separate from that, which are more inclusive for people. For example, we recently had informal games, which is I think in a very long time the first time that the informal games took place in the odd semester instead of Sportech. So these are type of things that the coordinators and executives do. The purpose of recruiting a larger amount this time was twofold. Firstly, of course, we actually do need a larger force for this operation to take place. Secondly, we also are floating these viewers on a conditional basis. These haven't been passed in the cards yet. On the end of the tenure, we'll assess the performances and pass the players of people who have actually put in the work.
So the next question would be that How do you seek to solve the problem of low advertising in BSA? Like we have seen the website of BSA, it has not been updated since a very long time, and BSA's Insta has also not been very active. So how do you seek to solve this problem?
So I think this is just a continuation to what he said. Earlier, the sports secretaries, the captains, vice captains, and all of us have the main aim of winning the Inter-IT GC. Our main aim is Inter-IT and to perform very good at Inter-IT. While the second half of BSA, which is the vision of BSA for all, that will inculcate all these features: social media presence, bringing in sponsors, hosting informal events, and all. So right now, the reason we have like had a lot of coordinators and executives is to somehow tackle this problem.
Increase the
Exactly.
visibility.
And if you'll notice from the past 2 or 3 weeks, the social media is much more active now. In fact, we had made a small team which is very, very specific, has the very specific task of dealing this only. Reels have been put up for, I think table tennis is up already.
Not able to actually-
For table tennis, it is up already, and the shooting for other sports is almost done. So the social media is quite active. Secondly, we have a good lead for the Inter-IT jerseys, and that is taken up by a coordinator and his team as well. And the website. So for website also, last week only we had a in fact last month I had a discussion with our president, and we'll be tying up with Dev Club, and things will be brought out in that regard. So
just to add on to that answer, when we agree that the social media presence or the publicity presence of BSA has been low, for quite some time we haven't really needed it, which is also why people have let the past GSecs, and I don't blame them for that. They've let it. And I think the last time we used a YouTube channel was back in 2015-16 or something like that. Right now we do have a YouTube channel, but to be fair, even we are not using it very wisely. That's because our purpose was met by catering to people inside the institute. We had good resources and we had good support from everyone for us to go ahead and fulfill our aim, which is also imposed to us by the people, that is the Inter-IT contingent or our electorate, right? So if I want to get elected and I need to cater to the Inter-IT contingent, that then becomes my ultimate aim once I'm elected as well. So for the longest time, we've not really needed that. But this year, we had realized for the past 2-3 years, the problem has been persistent where the budget has not been sufficient, which is again not the fault of the administration, but just how things are going. Because of which we had to now, in our tenure, we had discussed this before the elections as well and post as well once we got elected, that we need to diversify and get these things which are also important for the goal to happen. Be that the inclusion of people who are not maybe the best at their sports, or maybe the sports that are not a part of the Inter-IT tournament or social media presence and sponsorships and things like that. So now I think if you go to our websites, not the website yet, but our social media page now, they've improved much from the past 2-3 years. And I'm pretty sure the website will also do pretty well in a month or so, I believe.
Okay, so adding on to this, like during Inter-IT, you see the Insta page of Inter-IT. They have like every day they post match schedules and then match results, and then they have a point tally. So are you looking forward to doing the same for GC as well?
yeah, definitely. In fact, with Dev Club only last year an app was launched, and this year also we'll refine. We have a plan to refine that on our website. I think it was called Sports Hub. Yeah. So we'll be working on that for the GC
That's
to
also
update.
what we're working on.
Yeah. So hopefully that will come out good
Otherwise,
in the
I
second
think-
semester. At least on the Insta, yeah.
Yeah, so adding on to that, I think this time we got a very good trial run with the Aquatics variety, whether we were able to keep up with posting live updates of what our contingent is doing. And I think we succeeded. We had put all the stories on time, and the people who were interested in BSA were directly updated with what was happening in the Aquatics variety. So I think the bare minimum that we can still do the GC is the same. And we will definitely try to have the app. And I don't remember if it was an app or a website, but whatever.
Yeah, it was an app. Sport Hub.
That is something we also have in our
But that will need a lot of work, definitely. We'll try to do that. But anyways, we'll definitely post on Instagram, that's for sure.
So all the Sportech is conducted every year in IIT, but it is quite dull as compared to the sports fest of other IITs, such as IIT Kanpur or BSA, where a lot of artists come and several stalls are set up, but nothing like that nothing like that is done here in IIT Delhi. So how do you seek to tackle that, and what is done?
Yeah, I think the inherent difference between Sportech and other IITs who are not in major cities is regarding the accommodation that they can handle within the institute. I have been to IIT Kanpur twice. I've been to Roorkee once for these invitation tournaments like Sharma and their institute in general has a much better capacity to host people and have them live in those cities. Why? Because these are colleges which are away from the city, right? For example, if Kanpur needs to host a tournament, they don't have a lot of quality local colleges nearby them for who they can invite in a day tournament. But at IIT Delhi, we have a lot of good colleges, be that DU, be that IP University, or be that private colleges near Noida or Gurgaon, who we can invite on a day basis. That is, they come in the morning and they leave in the evening. So since institutes like Kanpur or BHU or Roorkee, they have enough accommodations, availability of accommodation, be that in their CRs or VRs or whatever they have, because they are just institutes which are larger in size than us and they have larger hostels than us, and they have a much lesser day scholar base than us. I think that makes it easier for them to have people stay there, which increases the revenue that they can get from these tournaments, which in general then increases the scale of the tournament that they're able to host, and that is when they can accommodate things like pro nights or things like that would happen. The thing with IIT Delhi and the thing with Sportech is that we have a lot of local colleges coming to our tournaments, and these are the colleges we prefer to compete with, because other than just having a fest, which is great and which looks good from the outside, we also want to compete better. We want to call up colleges which we have a good competition with and which gives us a good taste for us to prepare for our forthcoming tournaments as well, and have a good quality of sport within the tournament, for which we call colleges of DU and IP, like I said, and local colleges come in the day, leave in the evening, because of which the registration fees is less, and also because we really can't accommodate a lot of people in our hostels during the sport day, which is why we don't have a large source of revenue, which is why we conduct a smaller scale of tournament, which is simply just about sports and not about it being a fest and a great tournament. So I think that's the reason why institutes like Kanpur have a seemingly larger looking fest, but we have a good tournament and a good quality of sports being played within ourselves.
Okay, so moving on, one of the major problems with our inter-IT is the lack of female representation. So what could be the reason you think for this, and how do you seek to solve this? Like, there are instances that we don't have a proper team, a proper female team that would go to inter-IT. So because of that, we lack points.
So I would just point out that I don't think there's any sport where we don't have a proper team.
Exactly.
I think I just beg to differ with that. I think in every sport we ensure that the person who is going is actually deserving of the spot of being.
Yeah, I think your question can, matlab, I do agree that the participation of women in our overall sports culture is quite less. But specifically to inter-IT, I don't think there is a problem. But yeah, in general, the participation is quite less. For that, last year also, for example, in cricket, women's cricket was involved in the GC, and
Last
things
year
are
was the
looking
first
good.
time when women's cricket in
Yeah.
all 5 hostels played with cricket.
So similarly, this year also we are trying to increase the sports or the events where the women participate. So in Aquatics also we had a lot of events. People did participate. We gave practice lots. So in that way we are trying to encourage women. And secondly, we do have some good senior players who keep motivating them as well. So
And I
we
think
are
the fundamental issue of having less participation is very simple. In boys' hostels, you have sports secretaries and you have a lot of seniors that you look up to. A large number in every hostel, which encourage you to get outside your hostels and go and participate in sports events, right? In girls' hostels, I think the bonding, from what I've heard, of course, I've never been inside a girls' hostel, but the bonding between seniors and juniors is quite less. Because of which, position holders like even sports secretaries are not as actively involved with the freshers as probably in boys' hostels are. So they're not able to get people out of their hostels and get people out of the comfort zones and push them into the grounds. Because of which, less women are willing to take up into sports because they never really understand what could be inspiring for them in that. And I think this problem we recognize in the beginning of our tenure as well. And we've actively pushed sports secretaries as well as senior, like you said, the senior member of our contingent who have been very regular with their sports to, replicate what happens in boys' hostels where people go into the rooms and like, "Bhai, jaa tu koi to sport play." So I think we haven't seen the results very starkly yet, but we hope in the long run this does help. I think we'll find out in the GC how that has worked out.
So also you've written many people who go to sports practice, they prefer protein-rich alternatives, such as boiled eggs and other protein-rich food items rather than buying juice and stuff. So you've written that you would give them night mess coupons instead of juice shop coupons. So I would like to know that is this being done?
Yeah, so the coupons are bilateral, so you can choose between them.
So,
you
for
can,
example, the weightlifting team or the throwing team within the athletics needs more protein than juices.
So they are being provided night mess coupons.
yeah, they can get boiled eggs or milk or whatever they want. And the coupon rate has been increased from 25 to 30, by the way, so they are happy in some sense.
Okay, so next question, it is very common that people or sports people get injured as they approach IIT. So how do you manage this? Do you have enough number of backups? Or
So, yes, we have enough number of backups. The institute team is generally 1.5 times the time, 1.5 times the size of the contingent. For example, the cricket team is of 16 players, then we have at least 24 people coming to the practice. In cricket, there is a much bigger number, which is simply more popular sport. But in every sport, we ensure that there is enough of a pool of players. And I think most players are not really sure of their position, whether they're going to interact or not until like very close to the tournament. So yeah, and of course we have physiotherapists available as well, and we have enough avenues for us to recover from injuries as well.
So we are aware that most of the inter-IT preparations and like GC is conducted in the months of peak pollution. So don't you think that during these months external sports should be completely stopped because the health of the athletes is being compromised? So what's your view on that?
आप इंटर जून में करा था तो हम जून में भी खेलते हैं. I mean,
Like,
I
is there
mean,
any solution?
so I think there is no solution because this problem is only pertinent to IIT Delhi. So we can't go ahead in the board meet and say, okay, listen, we have pollution in November, we can't play. Please make it happen in October. So we can try saying that, but we know the answer. They'll be like, I don't.
it is not very feasible.
It's not feasible
Because the
with
winter
Aquatics.
vacation is the only time when all the IITs, all the students are free. So
So, for example, the Aquatics Inter-IT is possible in the midsummer break only. There's no possibility of shifting it because all IITs are only free at that time. And this is the only window that we get other than probably June, but
then internships are
people are busy in their careers and so much. So that's actually an interesting point. Something we have only softly considered कि हाँ यार मैं खेल रहा था तो pollution दिक्कत होती तो है. But I don't think we can do a lot about that other than in whatever sports indoor practice is possible, providing them with that in the Aryan stadium or jail or things like that, which already happens.
okay, so moving on. The people who attend summer camp, they complain about that their mess fee, the mess fee that they pay during that time, that is not reimbursed. That should be reimbursed by BSA, but
yeah,
some
so
people complain it doesn't happen.
we did try that elaborately this time, but unfortunately, I think due to some technical or bureaucratic issues, I think that was stuck. I mean, there is a lot of difficulty in how exactly the funds are being transferred. It's not just like me or the president or the dean can just sign that, okay, give every player his mess amount and then he'll get. So behind that, there is a lot of technicality, I think you
Yeah,
can
so
tell this
from
person.
what we were told is that I had actually gone to the administration with this proposal and it was not possible this year. I think part of that is simply that the transactions between boards is something that the administration has some difficulties processing. So for example, in this we have to give money from the BSA account to the BHM account, which is something where we face a few problems. There were some other issues as well, but having said that, I understand the concern, and we totally remember that even last year this problem was there. So was it this year during the summer camp, and we can only hope that in the longer run, probably till the next summer camp, we can find a solution for that. But see, we did try. We had made the proposals. We had a proper plan out as to how this can happen and how it will be actually feasible and how it's also in the budget, etc., etc. But we could not get our approval this year. Hopefully, it's better next year. But yes, this is always in every GenSec's plan or every DG's plan for this to happen.
Okay, so what I want to ask is, I just wanted to know if the regular maintenance of basketball courts, cricket nets, and athletic tracks is that being done regularly?
Yeah, so I think you said basketball court. So every day, if for example any day the basketball net is torn, by the next morning I automatically see it fixed up without me intervening. So I think our ground staff is pretty good at that. They know how things are going, what is the need of the sport, and as it has been 6 or 8 months, and I've not heard any captain complain about this. So I think things are going pretty good.
Yes, I think during the beginning of our tenure, so the I think head ground staff, Rambaliji, he is a very big fan of cricket and I play cricket, so he's very engaged with me. So I think it's very casual with me and him. I can just walk up to him and say, Rambaliji, abhi kar dijiye na. And he obviously talks back, but he gets it back. So he's diligent that way. So and I think what he said, we haven't heard any complaints yet, and we try actively to have people complain so that we know what problems are. So I think that's a fair assumption.
Okay, so in your SOP, you have mentioned the point that you will have a publicly accessible inventory system at Mithil Sports Complex, which will enable players to check out equipments and then to issue them and check if they are available or not at a specific point of time. So, what's the
Yeah, I
plan?
think that system is there.
Yeah, you can just go up there and check whatever exactly available. The there is just one slight problem that we don't have so many people that one guy is just sitting there to issue you stuff. So it might be possible that you go to that storeroom and the person is maybe on the football ground doing some work. You can wait 10 or 15 minutes, he'll be there.
Okay,
I think that system, sorry to interrupt, I think that system was also in place before our tenure as well. It was just polished a bit. I think we got it done.
Okay, so moving on to the next section for inter-IIT. What's the selection criteria for inter-IIT, and like, are there any formal trials that are conducted, and how do you make sure that these trials are unbiased?
Yeah, so basically there are two types of sports in my opinion. A few of them are just straight away you can say player A is better than player B. Short sprints, throwing events, swimming, table tennis, racket sports. And then there are field sports where you have so many positions and so many responsibilities of each player that you cannot just say player A is better than player B in say football or basketball or cricket. Somebody is a wicket keeper, somebody is a bowler, somebody is a batsman. So in field sport, it is up to the senior players, the captain and the coach. And it is not just like 4 or 5 senior players just sit together and make a list. That is not how BSA functions. That is not, because end of the day everyone wants to win the medal. If you're just taking your friends, like it is an automatic feedback loop. If you just take your friends who are not deserving, you're not gonna get a medal. So automatically there is a system in place that people will get selected only on the basis of merit, at least in sports. That will always be true. And secondly, the coaches, we have coaches in every sport and they have a decent amount of experience. Some of our coaches have been here for like almost 8 to 10 years.
The cricket coaches
Yeah.
have been for 20 years.
20 years. So I mean, they are here for a reason. They know how inter-IT plays out, what players should be selected, what is the need of a player in the inter-IT, what kind of player is more valuable. Maybe you might think that this guy is a better batsman, but in the context of inter-IT, how things are going on in the tournament, what level of teams come in the tournament, maybe somebody else is a better fit. So that is left to the coaches and the captain. And in terms of throwing events or short sprints or swimming, we have formal trials, and that is governed by us, the sports officers, and yeah, the captains, the coaches. We have a formal trial for that. The guy who runs faster will go.
Yeah, in addition to that, I think the lack of biasness in selection is a product of the culture that has been built since
True.
probably we're going to try. Right? I think IIT Delhi has performed in top 3, 4, or at least 5 in every year that we've been to inter-IIT, which is something that is driven by the students wanting to do that and the administration supporting that. So I think if, let's say, us as GSecs want the best to happen, the captains want the best to happen, so the coaches, because obviously the coaches are the job that will be tested. I think the product of that leads us to actually taking the best team possible, which will get us the best results. And because of that, we oftentimes don't even have to intervene. None of us have to intervene to check if biasness हो रही है कि नहीं हो रही है. Because we know that everyone wants the best. Because that's the culture that is left to us, and we believe to our juniors.
So continuing on this, so how do you do captains and vice captains and the coaches keep record of the players that are regular, how they are practicing, how they are preparing for?
Yes, in fact, this year we have a formal register in each sport of attendance. So we have the complete track of who's coming when.
And also how they ensure that the player doesn't drop out at last minute due to any other commitment, like personal or maybe fourth year people have placement commitments and all.
So I think in terms of personal commitments,
Yeah, I don't think we should intervene in personal commitments.
see, some personal commitments we just can't deny, right? For example, during the tournament, someone really needs to not be there. That's, I mean, we don't know what the reasons are. We just have to take into account for that, which is why we also have a bench strength, right? But I think a person was made it thus far to being a part of the team in, let's say, in November and starting December, right, before we go to the tournament. They are also passionate enough to want to play. That is also why we have selected them. We also, to add on to it, we don't only select people on the basis of talent and good gameplay. We also select them on regularity and the passion that they show and the drive that they show to want to actually do good for their team as well. So if someone really wants to do good and then they're wanting to back out, they probably have a valid reason to do so. So I think that's fair. And what was the other thing that you proposed?
Like for the people who have placements.
Yeah, so for placements also, again, this is a part of our plan. For example, okay, IITs don't have placements. My captain has placements. So we know what we need to get out of him in the sport, right, in cricket, right? But we also know that he has a placement rep. Sports is also very important to all of us, but at the same time, our careers are more important. And that is the message we do portray. Yeah, we get that the placement is very much important. If you can manage practice along with that, if you can manage just enough so that you are still able to deliver in the interactive, we will welcome you. Otherwise, it's fine. And they also get the same. They also have their own priorities. Some people are like, okay, maybe I know a few players who left playing because they had their placements, which is fair because their careers are any day more important than winning an interactive medal. But I also know a few people like my captain who somehow manage both, who don't show as regularly. But as long as we know that they have the passion to do so, and once their placements are over, they will actually be active in the team. That is the type of people we trust, and that is the type of people we actually do carry with us. And we also support our players during the placements. I remember, I think, when I was going to Interactive 2023, some player had a placement interview while after they had traveled to Interactive. So I think, I don't know how it happened because I wasn't involved in the administration yet. But the sports officers managed an online interview from Gandhinagar itself. So that way, I think the administration, be that the sports administration as well as the institute overall, is very supportive of people wanting to play and managing the lyrics side as well.
And moving on to the next question. Since Inter-IT Aquatics happened earlier in around the month of October, so what type of hurdles do you face and how do you go around managing all of that?
Hurdles while preparing for Aquatics Inter-IT?
Or like it is.
Like the Inter-IT Aquatics itself, they happen quite earlier in the month of October. So are there any types of hurdles that you face and how do you go?
So probably like figuring out the travel, the tracksuits and other things, because generally that takes a lot of time. And then by the end of say October or starting of November, things are finalized for the whole contingent. But we have to be very specific as to give them the best quality stuff they want at the right time. So that was one challenge. And secondly, I think their practice was going smooth because the pool was opened quite early, around April and May. So things were going smoothly. The summer camp went smoothly. A challenge was to have long duration practices. So in other sports, generally the summer camp is around 21-25 days. But for aquatics, we got this permission, we got it through that if they want, they can practice throughout the summer for the whole 2 months. So I think that was a problem, but that was tackled pretty well.
I think the ideological problem which is always there is that for the main Inter-IT, we both play our Inter-IT in December. And in cricket, the seriousness starts, or like us thinking about the medal itself starts probably during October and during right now. In aquatics, this happens 2 months before. And most people are, because not everyone around them in sports is thinking the same, tend to forget that मेरे को 2 महीने पहले खेलना. So the problem is that our cycle starts during this semester. Like we start a serious training during August when we come back from an internship, etc. The UN sem is comparatively chill. But the aquatics team has to start sometime before that because they're also competing before that. So I think again that is tackled by the captains leading the culture before. So the current, maybe we forget, but the current captain of aquatics won't forget because he was there last time. And his captain told him to jaldi practice chalu karna. So I think that is dealt with this way.
Now moving on, we have some SOP specific points or questions. Like you have mentioned in your SOP that you are looking to conduct regular sports informals to make BSA more visible. Like we saw that during start of the November there was an event. So how do you look forward to conducting more such events in this semester or maybe next semester?
The way to conduct that is if we try to make it a very big event and try to make it look very big, BSA informals, it won't be very successful because people aren't there in all seriousness or in order for the greatness of this event. They're there just to have fun. So while this informals was going on, I was playing a match next to the hockey field in the cricket field. And right after my match ended, I went there. And I noticed that it wasn't like, and that's how we planned it. It wasn't a lavish event where, media coverage bhi kar rahe hain, bahut sare log aaye hain. It was a very simple event. People who want to come and play, who want to enjoy, come, play and enjoy. And I think we don't need to host this event at a very big scale. We just want people to know that aisa kuch pura hai. Those who want to come and enjoy and be a part of this, can come and be a part of this.
This is the second phase of BSA. Apart from interactive, we want people to actually come out of their rooms and get on the ground.
And just play and
Yeah.
be physically active.
So is this just for enjoyment or is there any incentive? Like obviously they will get NSO hours, anything other than that.
I think in most IITs, the older IITs, BSA, the equivalent of BSA is just the sports infrastructure as a whole. What this stands for is that they have general elections, which elects general secretaries for whatever purpose the students then want. In most IITs, when the contingent is not voting and everyone in the campus is voting, everyone is looking for a representative who can make whatever they want better for them, right? So, for example, if I am in, let's say, IIT Kanpur, I also want to vote from someone who is in the roster and does not play professional sports, and their question would be, I also not play. How do you make it better for me, right? So, due to a lot of reasons, in IIT Delhi, we can't have a general elections, which the advertisement board does. Because of the lack of general elections, our purpose gets streamlined toward interactive, right? Like I said, we try to cater to people who are, more important to the board because all of the budget goes there and whatnot. So we need to remember that BSA was not found for the inter-IIT contingent. BSA or the sports equivalent, the sports board, was found for everyone, for them to take part in whatever way they can or whatever way feasible. At that point, it is also our purpose to make sports accessible to everyone and for everyone to enjoy or to be able to take something out of the gymkhana fees that they're paying, right? If I want to come and play, I can do that. If I want to play professionally, I have teams for that. And even sports which are not a part of inter-IT are sometimes supported. For example, I know a guy in third year who does archery, and the administration has supported him and given him a lot of funding for him to practice archery at a national level. So, to sum that up, our purpose is not just inter-IT. In all other IITs, the purpose is to cater to everyone. We also want to cater to everyone because that is what we are ultimately meant for. Our elections shouldn't shape what exactly the board should stand for. So, even though this does not, directly cater to what our major purpose is, this is also something we need to take care of.
So, you have written that you plan to conduct a new sports event in the hot semester, which is similar to DU's one-day tournament, and this will provide players like exposure and an opportunity to evaluate themselves in the media. So, what I would like to know is what do you exactly mean by this new sports event? Like, what is the scale of this? What would be actually included in this? And what are the incentives that you get by organizing such an event?
Yeah, so we made a very elaborate plan regarding this and talked to the administration and the players. But we decided that it is just better to send them to nearby tournaments and invite teams over the weekends or over the weekdays, even in the evenings, to have practice matches. So, what at the time pre-election we thought that we want to give players a better tournament experience. So, we wanted to invite a lot of teams from the nearby colleges, say TU or IP, which you mentioned earlier, and then give them exposure to play with a good team. And I think that was taken up because in most of the sports we are regularly inviting teams. So over the weekends we are definitely inviting teams, and even during the weekdays also in the evenings we are having practice matches. And especially in November things are escalating quickly and a lot of teams are having practice matches. Things are going good. And secondly, around Delhi NCR we are also sending a couple of teams who want to play other tournaments. For example, in SNU or Noida or Gurgaon, IP, etc. So in that regard, we are getting a lot of tournament exposure before inter-IT. That was the aim.
I can see nothing to take away the fact that we had this in our SOP, but we did not do that. But I think the reason for that is that once you do get into a position, that is when you truly understand what's happening, other than just campaigning and what people want. Once we got into the board, we realized that other models are much more feasible. For example, local tournaments and for example, Shivnadar. And this is something that even I as a vice captain did not know last year because there was a lack of awareness regarding that if you want to go to a local tournament within Delhi NCR, you can get that reimbursed. Invitation tournaments में एक allowed होता है. For example, I can only go to Kanpur or Roorkee or one tournament outside of my city because that's what our budget permits. But these local tournaments don't really have a limit unless they're very expensive. I did not know that as a vice captain last year. Only when I became a DG, I found that out. What we instead chose was to make this more aware to people that you guys can play as many tournaments locally as you want to. They will be reimbursed. There won't be an issue with that. And that then turned out to be more feasible. And the purpose that we had for this, that is training us for competitions, semi-finals, finals, pressure, etc., etc. I think that's still good.
So another point you mentioned about you would like to increase the alumni interaction among the people, like the former sports playing people that passed out.
I think alumni participation was a part of my SOP because cricket has traditionally had a very good alumni network. Because a lot of people of our team, people who have been a member of our teams, are still currently playing cricket within Gurgaon and within Noida because these are very major hubs for corporate cricket. And these teams are also very talented. Like, we find it tough to beat the alumni team. So what we wanted to do is escalate this to a bigger level. That is, we have the whole institute having the alumni visit much and much regularly. I think the cricket team has a good culture that way. The alumni visit much often. We get a lot of experience from them. And I wanted to elevate this to an institute level where all sports have their alumni visiting. For that, we need to bring up an incentive for the alumni to come. And incentives can vary. Some would want us to, stroke their egos maybe. Some would just want us to invite them and they'll be happy to come. Some would want okay, let me play also in this institute and I'll also help out the juniors. So this is a very sport by sport thing which we are doing in many sports. I think squash has seen a very big increase in the alumni that are visiting recently. Cricket has been good. Other sports have also been good. And I think at a larger scale, this is still in working. And I think this particular point was made more about Sportech or more during the time of Sportech, where the alumni are more engaged and involved in the institute practices because everyone, an alumni team comes in Sportech for every sport. So we would want to get some sort of, I won't call it a favor, but some benefits out of them necessarily. For example, I had tried getting funding for another invitation tournament from our cricket team. We also had enough amount for that, but for some reason we chose not to go to another tournament. And I think these type of small amounts that we can get is something which can help our team, and not only monetarily, but also in terms of experience, right? In terms of just them coming and telling कि उनके 4 साल या उनके 5 साल यहाँ पर as a sports person कैसे रहे थे, what sort of teams are there, etc. So I think this is still in working. This will always be working. This will always be going out throughout the semester. But the small change that we are looking forward is that earlier GSecs and even we have tried कि हम एक central level पर alumni से funding लेता है. There have been groups जहाँ पर इसके 4-5 साल के alumni रहे हैं, and we've asked कि यार any sort of donation that you want to make to the board registration, they would be very good. I think that has never worked when we generally ask him if paisa de do. But when we ask them for small amounts, for example, I ask them कि मेरा tournament fund करो.
That too sport specific. Then it is very
I talked to my cricket alumni, the ones that I was close to when I was in first second year, but वो seniors थे कि sir कर दो, बढ़िया हो जाएगा. उन 10 लोगों ने agree कर लिया. I think these type of small funding is something we want to inculcate in every sport, and we also want to get the captains currently कि तुम लोग ऐसा try करते.
Yeah, I think this is going good. In fact, actually, not just cricket, this time football and basketball also. We tried to go to other tournaments also, for which unfortunately we did not have enough budget from the administration. And in these sports, the alumni were ready to fund these tournaments, the travel and the registration. So yeah.
Okay, so one last question. If you could change one thing about BSA system overnight, so what would it be?
Change one thing for BSA overnight.
कितना measures?
मतलब make our budget 100 times.
I think right.
Something about the system,
Something about the system.
which might take a longer time to improve, but if you could just change it overnight.
सारी teams best कर दो मैं. मतलब
I mean, maybe mindset. If I could somehow overnight, as you say, bring in the mindset of the athletes which was there pre-COVID, then that would heavily impact our performance. Because we talked to both of us talked to a lot of players who used to play for our contingent before COVID, and the level of sports and the level of dedication was just something else. Throughout the first and second year, you were supposed to just, for example, in basketball, just dribble the ball outside the court, and you were not allowed to step in. And from the third year, you were such a good player that nobody could ever beat you. And then throughout the third and your fourth year, you would just bring in medals. And this cycle would continue forever. Unfortunately, due to the 2-3 years in COVID, this cycle broke. And now...
Yeah, I think pre-IIT, I remember talking to some seniors who were saying that the sports culture of IIT Delhi was on a rising path because the mindset was very strong. I think we must have had
We
a few
won
very
the
good
GC and
we won the GC in 18, and we must have had like a few series of very, very good GSecs who would have inculcated that mindset where everyone just wanted to play. None of them were playing, especially for medals, especially for getting the inter-IIT tag. They just loved playing, just wanted to go out there and give their best. The mindset has changed slightly, I think, post-COVID because the passing down of the culture did not take place in 3 years, where the inter-IIT did not take place. 2 years actually, but whatever. I think that is where some loss is taking place. If we, with the current teams, get the mindset which was in 2019, I think
it's impossible to
I
beat us
think,
because we are already performing pretty good.
yeah.
So the teams are good. The mindset is solid, is very solid in fact. Because in every team I can see two set of players. One set of players who are not sure if they'll go to the inter-IIT or not. So out of say 10 such junior players, only 5 will go. So all the 10 are putting in their 100% effort just to get that inter-IIT jersey. And the other 5 senior players who are sure that they'll go, they are putting in 100% effort because they have the responsibility to get a medal. So I think both of them are doing good in that regard, and I think the teams are going pretty good this year.
Okay, so one question. This may not be in your hand, but do you propose that there should be a sports quota for admission in IIT?
Yes. Yes, please.
I mean, obviously,
See,
we would love that.
we would love that. I think the answer to that is, from an institute perspective, something that's iffy, right? I would personally love if we have sports quota players because it would help us in the GC, and my purpose is to get the GC. But the reason we haven't proposed it yet is because we just don't know how to present this to the administration. Because sorry for that. Because how do I tell, let's say, Dean Academics कि आप JEE में बच्चे ले रहे हो, अब आप एक ऐसा ले रहे हो अच्छा खेलता है, because it may not be very intuitive to them. Not to point any particular administrative person out, but what might be intuitive to someone who's in sports may not be intuitive to someone who's not.
In fact, during our JEE prep also, if somebody would just come up and say, this guy has scored very less than you, but he has cleared the score and he is a very good player. At that time, I would say like, this is unfair, but now I feel this is such a great thing.
So I think the purpose of the sports quota, which institutes like Madras and I think Bombay are going to make the best of, is that it not only gets you good athletes, it gets you good culture. For example, in cricket, we had a player who was equivalent to a person who might get it from sports quota, and the type of culture that he has left in the team is still present. I think because he just knows the sport so well, he teaches the people who are coming in those sports as well, and he leaves a very good bench for when he graduates as well. I think this is not true only in cricket. There are a lot of sports we've seen that where like one talented person comes in and he ensures that after he leaves as well, the culture is there, the sports culture, and the bench is motivated enough to perform. They're also equipped technically enough to perform because this guy teaches them a lot as well. I think, and a better sports culture leads to just a better just a better vibe around the institute. I believe because I think the purpose of any extracurricular activities is to have enough outlets for everyone to go ahead and perform at a good level. Not only at a good level, but also like learn a lot in the process, right? I think sports teaches you a lot. So does any other extracurricular activity. It teaches you a lot. It leaves you with a lot of skills, right? And if you perform well, I think the better you learn. I think we would totally love a sports quota, and I think this is what our pitch would be to the administration, that I think a better sports culture leads to a better institute as a whole. And
we actually did sit and think about it. This was the conclusion. We are not very sure how feasible it is and how just it is from an academic.
The reason it hasn't been officially proposed yet is because like he said, कि मेरा JEE अच्छा rank आया, उसका मुझसे खराब आया, but खेलता है. Why does he deserve the admission more than me? That is
we have to think over this a lot. Like the answers to such questions need to be there before proposing this.
After all, it is Indian Institute of Technology.
Yeah. I mean, the main purpose for everyone is to study, do well, and not the main.
Yeah, I mean, but it is not ones and zeros. If you think that way, both of us should be studying and not play sport at all. But it is not how things are. But definitely without sport, I would not be the personality I am today.
I think when I talk about extracurricular activities, institutes this teach you a lot in life, and I think this is what we come to IIT for an all-round holistic development. And it's activities like these which give you that, and not just being academically brilliant. Of course that matters. Of course that's the crux of that कि तुम्हें academically अच्छा होना पड़ेगा यहाँ पे. But I think things like that also get you an edge, also put you forward in life other than just studying. So I think these activities also hold an equal importance, if not more, than just academics in the institutes.
Any major challenge that you're facing right now, and how would you like to?
So, our major challenge has been a declining budget for the past few years. I think since we hosted IIT in 22, which is fair कि उस साल में हमारा budget ज़्यादा 23 and 24 and 25 we faced a decline in budget, which is because the administration itself is facing some issues getting money for the students for the student activities. I think that's been a major problem because the requirements are ever increasing, but the budget is continuously decreasing. So every year we have to cut down certain things that we probably provided last year. So I think this is the major challenge we face, but I think given that we put in enough time, I think we've been able to deal with that. Recently, like I said, हमारा भी एक budget cut raise आया है, which ऊपर से amount बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. That we should, even it's less than last year, we should be able to manage and at least get people whatever they want this year. So having said that, we haven't completely dealt with it yet क्योंकि अभी तक हमने allotment नहीं करा है. But I think we just hope and just get it done anyway. We just खेलने वाला खेलेगा. So we just need to keep that spirit alive. We just need to keep playing, and even if you don't get good equipments, we need to have a sports person understand that and still go on and do what they do.
Okay, so concluding this interview, so how do you see your rest of the tenure going? So how are you looking to conclude a tenure and set the stage for the upcoming GSec?
अभी तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं है. अभी हमारा
अभी तो सब कुछ करना है.
अभी हमारा evaluation रहता है.
Inter-IT GC, inter-hostel GC, Sportech. A lot of work is left, and
I
we are
think
quite excited.
दो major चीजें हो गई, Aquatics, Inter-IT और FGC and summer camp. तीन.
हाँ.
See, our tenure as to how students will see it will be judged by the Inter-IT. हमारा अच्छा पोजीशन आया तो हमने कैसा भी काम करा सब कहेंगे कि हाँ बहुत बढ़िया है. हमारा खराब पोजीशन आया हमने कितना अच्छा काम करा people will be like यार मजा नहीं आया. So we are yet to be judged by people, but in terms of what we stand for, in terms of what our vision was and us trying to achieve whatever we can, we have done quite a bit. I think we have personally invested in a lot of teams, our time, and to go and see what they're doing to try and understand कि उनका admin से कुछ छोटी दिक्कत आ रही है क्या, कहीं coaches से दिक्कत है, or if they're facing any other problems which we can deal, something that we can deal at an administrative level or even a personal level. So we've put in quite a bit, and in the next month we are going to put quite a bit until the Inter-IT. And during the 8 or 10 years of Inter-IT, we are again going to put quite a bit. And we hope for the best. Then we have Sportech, the same with that. We hope for the best. But we are confident in our own that we will produce at the end a tenure that we both can be proud of in terms of the effort. Results are not always in our hand. I can't say that we're winning the GC this year. I can't say that we're losing it as well. But it's yet to happen.
In terms of people judging us, I think the only sentence I don't want to hear is the GSec or the DG did not care enough.
Or they didn't try.
Yeah, they didn't try, there are a lot of things beyond our control. We might not be able to provide certain things to our players, which we really, really want to do. But as long as we have given our everything, time, effort, and everything, we have planned out everything, we try to get things approved, try to get some money in from other sources. As long as we are doing everything as a student representative, I think people would be happy and I think we would be satisfied from our tenure.
And in terms of setting it up for the next batch of General Secretary and Deputy General Secretaries, I think this year it will be easier because it's the 5-year degree. So one problem that we faced is that a lot of things we just did not know.
True.
Like we're still learning about how to be a GenSec or a DG, right?
Yeah.
We still don't know how administration completely works. I think it took us a lot of time. I think जब हम संग्राम हो गया तब हमें समझ आया कि admin कैसे चलता है. Because that is when we were deeply involved with that. This problem was because our past GSec and DG, they graduated and we could not really get in touch with them to learn exactly how to go about things. They did tell us a lot while they were still there, but that gap still remains. So next year तो problem नहीं होगी क्योंकि यही होगा. जब अगले GSec को कोई problem होगी तो सबको कॉल करके पूछ लेगा कि आप ये कैसे करते हैं दिन में बताते हो. So I think in terms of setting it up, we have it easy.
Yeah.
So that will be all from our side. Thank you for giving us our time. And All the best for interacting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.